Hello, beautiful, wealthy women. I truly am so excited and inspired to share my next beautiful woman and her interview and what she's doing in the world to help others. It is such foundational work, so important. I really want you to pay attention and listen to her. She's an expert many times over in her field, and it's all about her helping you get through your own blocks so that you can have the most amazing life and get closer and closer to your dreams without standing in the way of it. I'm not going to share too much because she is the expert and she can guide you the best. So let me turn the camera and mic over and go ahead and please share with us who you are, what you do, all about your business, and why does this matter so much to you? What is the soulful part of it that makes you so happy and content to serve in this way that you are?
Well, Tamara, thank you for that really beautiful welcome, and it's an honor to be here with you today. I am Karen Robinson, a trauma recovery expert, and I think what makes me unique is I am also a complex trauma survivor. I grew up in a dysfunctional family, like many, where there was domestic violence, child abuse, and we lived well below the poverty line. So as a child, there's this assessment you can take. I didn't take it as a child, I didn't know it existed back then, but it's called ACEs. It stands for Adversive Childhood Experiences. And it's a series of 10 questions. And when I did take this assessment, I scored 10 out of 10, which is not good. And it really just shows like how complicated my childhood was and all the issues I grew up with. Long story short, I had a suicide attempt at a young age because I was so miserable in my childhood home. And when that didn't work, I started really kind of wondering, well, maybe there's a bigger purpose for me, and what could that be? So my spiritual revolution happened, and then I ended up running away from home, which again, I wouldn't recommend to somebody, but for me, it was a healthy decision. My aunt and uncles became my guardians, and then from there, I excelled at school, got a full ride to university to study social work, and then I went on to earn my master's degree, and I have some PhD credits as well in social work.
Wow, what a story. And you took so much of the pain that you had to experience and you turned it into power, first for yourself and to bring yourself up and through. And now you're serving and helping others. So, what does that look like now? Like, how tell us a little bit about how you work with others, what type of different programs do you have, and the transformations that you see that are fairly common with your own clients. How does that show up for you?
Right. I would absolutely love to tell you that, oh, everything was smooth sailing after I went to university, but because of my complex trauma, I made a lot of mistakes, and I don't actually regret those mistakes because I understand now that that's just part of the learning journey to becoming who I am today. But I had some complicated relationships. I have a couple divorces under my belt, unfortunately. But now I'm in a healthy relationship. And through this whole time, I never necessarily meant to specialize in trauma, but trauma survivors have always kind of gravitated to me in my work. And so one day I woke up and on my caseload, every single person was a complex trauma survivor. And I then went to work with the Department of Defense, and where I empowered our military and our Department of Defense personnel to heal past all of their traumas. I learned that when before they even enlisted or signed up to serve, that were also surviving complex trauma from their own childhood. So a lot of the times in my career, when I noticed that this was what the pull was to me, I was attracting hurting people. I went on and earned every certification I could and have my advanced licensing. And I have all the credentials for being a trauma recovery expert at this time in my career. But one of the things I learned in trauma work, that the therapist is too intense, it goes too fast. With these modalities, they can actually be very dysregulating for people. So then I went on to study other holistic healing methodologies that maybe aren't evidence-based at this time, like the trauma interventions. So then I went on and got certifications in somatic healing and energy work, energy healing. I studied more about spirituality, and then I became a Christian counselor. But I also serve people from all religious and spiritual backgrounds. Spirituality is just huge, right, in our recovery. So I consider myself an eclectic provider at this point. I have every certification you can think of under the sun. There's some I love, there's some I won't use, but that's okay because I can take pieces of them that I think is therapeutic and use those in my work. So I use a framework called the Six Pillars Plus, and that is working and assessing with people's spiritual lives, their mental health, emotional health, physical health, energetic health, relationship health. Like our relationships are huge. And then I call the plus are things like abundance, looking at people's finances. Do they have money trauma? We know a lot of women do, and some men do as well. But where else in their lives can they work on being more abundant? Because abundance is not always about money, right? It's about, freedom to live your life the way that you want to live.
You know, it's so important the work that you're doing and the fact that you are so skilled, as you mentioned, in both a clinical side of the modalities and then the holistic side. It is just, it's the most beautiful way to work with yourself, with others, because that is, we are that combination. We need the help from all aspects, right? It's such a well-rounded way to do it. And it also allows for, people to kind of go towards what works best for them, right? It's like some maybe will appeal more to the holistic side, some more to that clinical modality side. It's the same thing with how people learn. Some people love to listen, some people need to watch, some people need to read. And I think the fact that you have all of these in your toolbox is amazing because you can serve all of your clients where they're at, where they feel most comfortable, obviously with your expert guidance to bring out the best that you want for them. And it's just so interesting, sometimes people not even realizing that they have these things going on and that they're in their own way and they don't realize, there's some kind of survival, fight or flight going on. But sometimes that can show up as great success. I remember a beautiful woman way back in the early days when I was in my 20s. She was such a success. She was so ambitious, so determined. She like never was late, never missed anything, over exceeded. And it turned out later when I got to know her more, and this may not be the case, of course, for everybody, but it is interesting how it shows up. She had been adopted. She had gone through a very rough childhood, and her sense of feeling that form of control, of achievement, showed up in her work. So she was, from the outside, she looked like a total success story. And you don't even know sometimes how people battle things sometimes. Sometimes it's not showing up. Sometimes it's showing up too much, and it's just, we can't assume that we know what people are going through. And it's so important that, people realize that there might be some block in themselves and to reach out and get help. And so, how does that show up if sometimes people are so blocked that they don't even realize they need help? So, how do you call in people into your world where they kind of get a sense of, oh, you know what, maybe there is something that I need a little bit of guidance on? What does that look like for you when you first do your reach out or bring people in? And, not specifically maybe, but just like, what is your general format when you kind of bring on somebody new, and what are the possibilities they have when they work with you, different aspects, how does that show up? maybe one on one or in group, like all of the different things that you kind of provide for them.
Sure. Yeah, it's a really great question because you are absolutely right. Survivors, we function in what's called all or nothing thinking a lot of the times, where we either believe we're a hot mess or we are over functioning. So we are striving for perfection, right? And both of those places are not super comfortable at all. Like nobody really wants to be a mess. It's just like, well, why bother? I mess everything up. And then the perfection side, like that striving is a constant revving of your nervous system is constantly revving and it's damaging. It causes a lot of health problems over time. So we call it the window of tolerance in my field. When that's like the beautiful window that our bodies, our minds, and our spirits thrive. And that's when we're able to do those deep breaths. And when our mind isn't racing, but also our mind isn't sleeping, like we're able to have coherent thoughts. Our mood feels regulated. We're able to communicate effectively. But it's really tough for us to be in that window when we're hyper aroused, we're that in that super anxious, we're on high alert, we're not feeling safe. And when we're hypo aroused, that means we're kind of depressed, we're very fatigued, sluggish, low energy. So one of the things I do is I assess for that. Whenever I first meet someone and they are interested in working with me, I encourage them to hire me for what I call a full assessment. And I equate that to me almost like being in a helicopter in the sky and I'm taking some snapshots of your life. So then I'm looking at your history. I may do a trauma timeline. I may ask you about your childhood. And then I'm asking about every area of your life, like what physical health problems do you have? What's your experience been in therapy so far? Have you ever been? Was it a good experience, a negative experience? I look at your spiritual growth. Are there any religious or moral traumas? Were there any domestic violence? Were you stalked? I had an incident where I was stalked in high school to add to my traumas. I assess work history. When I worked for the Department of Defense, I ended up filing 22 complaints of sexual harassment. So I'm always looking like, what's your work environment like? Is it toxic? Are you treated well? Are you respected in your workplace? Because if you're not, it's really hard to really wholly, completely heal from your past wounds from childhood. So I just look at all these different areas. And then, like, let's say someone's hired me for what I call a VIP day, where they're working with me for 4 to 5 hours. I will ask them, okay, here are the areas I see that could use some work. What's your burning desire? Like, if we could just troubleshoot one area today, what would that look like? And so then the client's able to say, okay, I really want to work on this. So we focus on that area for up to 2 to 3 hours. And then at the end of that day, I give them what's called an action plan. I'm like, okay, these are some areas of your life I really think you're going to feel so much better if time and attention went into them. And that can be like in weekly therapy. I may recommend my trauma recovery group where they're working in community with other survivors, where they're held accountable, but also getting that support. And when I say accountable, I don't mean being held accountable for your traumas, but accountability for your healing. Like, what's causing havoc in your life because of trauma? Like, are you drinking too much? Are you eating too much? Are you working too much? Are you people pleasing too much? We look at all this and hold each other accountable for that holistic healing. And then when I meet women that may not be able to afford any coaching or therapy, I have an offer for them as well to stay connected. I have what's called a dream club. It's $7 a month. It's a really low ticket way to still do some healing work with me. Every month, I give them a video on an area of their life where they can make a little upgrade and get a little action workbook, just so they can take some baby steps. And then one day, maybe they'll see how they can create the dream. The only wisdom they really need is their inner wisdom. I'm just a guide, but everybody's fully capable of healing. There's lots of hope to go around. I'm just a guide in that process. I hope I answered your question.
An amazing guide. And everybody can benefit from this work. And that maybe leads me to a new question. So, obviously, your skill set is with trauma survivors. Do you find that you also have, people that maybe didn't come through a trauma situation, but they just are not functioning as high of ways they'd like to be, or their emotions are getting the best of them. Maybe they don't have the bigger backstory, but can you also help people that just maybe need a little fine tuning in the way that they're handling things? And what does that look like? So, like, if someone is listening to this and they know the benefit of your work, but maybe they don't have that bigger background of trauma, but they still feel like, they're too much in their head, they're too affected by a negative comment, they're too emotional, too empathetic to the point where it throws them. Maybe, there can be a many a thing. And I think that it would be great if you maybe even can share, like, how can those people benefit by getting to know your work better?
Yeah. So if I can work with complex trauma, right, and I've been a therapist for almost 28 years, I've also have been trained and skilled in many, many different areas. I've worked with EAP, right? I've worked in hospitals and school settings. So I do have a really large range, and I've also worked with people with histories of addiction. Now, I will say that most people, like, I think you would have to live under a rock not to have any kind of past wounding. So maybe you were bullied and you've just kind of dismissed it and think, oh, that didn't really affect me. Or maybe you just weren't respected at work or didn't feel like you were um functioning as fully as you can. Like everybody has something, some kind of injury or hurt. And yes, I'm able to skillfully assist people with that as well. And that's part of the assessment process. I learn the really beautiful benefits of deeper self-care practices, and I love teaching others about that. Like I've learned the importance of daily meditation and a journaling practice. I actually journal every day now. One of my friends and I, we have started a journaling club and offer journaling opportunities 6 days a week. And you can just write about, hey, I have even this little resentment. It's when we express in writing and talking and art our wounds, the things that hurt us, that's how we heal. So I do have offerings for people like that. Well, for anybody feels like they've been wounded by something or they're hurting. And then the other part of my business, I have a retreat partner. And so we host holistic retreats. And our goal before 2028 is to do them in all 7 continents. So we have a 5 country, 13-day cruise to Antarctica planned for 2028 to celebrate our seventh continent, right? So it's very exciting. And you don't have to be like a complex trauma survivor to gain the benefit of that because part of life is just so tough. Even our political climate sometimes is just so tough. To get away and learn how to play and have adventure and humor. Like all of these things just help us thrive and dream again and live our best life. So that's why my company is called Heal, Thrive, Dream. Like I really think time and attention needs to be in every component of that. Healing those wounds, those childhood hurts, those relationship hurts we've had over time, learning how to thrive in your relationship. So maybe you would benefit from a boundaries course I have, or communication, or learning how changing how you think about things will help you in your relationships. And then that dream, that dream club I have, where you can learn about law of attraction and learn that you can take baby steps to have that life that you really want. Everything's possible. It just takes a little mustard seed of faith, is what I like to say, right? I'm not the first person to say that, of course.
I absolutely, I love everything that you're saying, because it is all of us. And this is what I love that we just spoke about that. Myself, let's see, it was at December 10th, I think it was December 10th. I allowed so many emotions to get the better of me. I was having just a relaxed day and I got triggered by something. This trigger um, turned into rapid heartbeat, very high blood pressure. It was dangerous. And it was very interesting because it felt like it came out of nowhere. I was just having a normal day and something happened. Like I had an expectation of someone, right? And then it didn't come through. And then I decided to get affected. But the effect, for whatever reason, because I was thinking of a couple different things that also made me a little upset about this person, for example. So ultimately, it was my expectations that got me in trouble, and it was my emotions around it. And it honestly was a very scary moment for me. I'll just say that. And it on the other side of that, it made me really come into terms with, and this is why I wanted to, talk about it, that this is for all of us, regardless of our backstory. We are all wounded, and of course, some have bigger stories, and my heart for them, but it can affect all of us, and we all can use this help. And I love that you can serve all, because after that experience, I said, wow, I just really let my emotions take ownership and run the show to the point where I was in a fight or flight and I really couldn't function and it was dangerous. And so it can be dangerous if you allow that adrenaline and the stress level and the blood pressure can kick in and the rapid heartbeat. So that's an experience of something that made me really pay attention to, whoa, this is, I got to get, I got to get ahead of this. I bought a book on how to not let all your emotions affect you. So like it happens to all of us. I'm trying to think of women in business sometimes. What do we go through? We overgive sometimes. We don't have the boundaries. We want to be loved. So we give so much, maybe too much to our clients because we're waiting for that approval, right? At this time, we're burning out. We're not setting self-respecting boundaries. There are times when, we put out something and we don't hear back. And it's sort of like almost like the old, experience when we have a partner we're interested in when we're in our early days and we're waiting by the phone for them to call or text and it doesn't happen. And it's these type of things, believe it or not, they might seem small and not that big of a deal to pay attention to, but in all honesty, they are, because they're stealing your energy. They're stealing your solid framework and focus on what your bigger dreams and accomplishments needs to be. And so, for all the women listening to this, whether you have had the fear of going visible, or you overgive, or you undercharge, or you hang out and obsessively look for an email that you're waiting for a response, or whatever it is, or you have, people in your life that don't always understand or give to you what you need, and you find yourself getting affected. These are all the things, right, Karen? These are the things
Mhm.
that block us, and your work can help people to kind of have a better exercise to get in front of it, and so they have a better solution. And I just think, cognitive behavior therapy, for example, is such a big deal, right? let's
Mhm.
let's do something, because I really, I your work is so foundational. Like I said, the minute I met you, I was so blown away by what you're doing in the world to help people, and realizing how foundational it is, that ultimately we need to figure out how to get out of our own way if we really want to be successful and move forward, and have that joyful dream, healthy, healed life, right? So I do want to like kind of focus a little bit of your work. How can this help a woman business owner be stronger in her approach? And even when we get to some of the success questions, maybe we'll angle it that way. But can you give me some feedback on how can this type of work that you're doing help a woman succeed more in her dream business?
Yeah, yeah. And I think this is exactly why it's so important when you're shopping for a therapist or a coach, like really looking at their background, their licensing, their certifications, because I when I see women like that, I look at their learning style, but also are they a head person or are they a heart person? Is there a disconnect there? Are they very much in their feelings? Because if they're in their feelings, we're going to do what's called DBT work, so to get them more aligned, like, okay, feelings are not facts. And
Hmm.
can we work on some regulation skills and work on how you're thinking about that? And then women that are too much in their head, which I think is a lot of the women, the descriptions that you just described with the CBT work I do. And now a lot of therapists poo-poo CBT. I have so much to say about that because I've studied it extensively. And I also use the European model in my work and not the American model. Why? I think the European model goes much deeper. The American model of CBT is just very superficial level. The European model, we really go to deep into the core beliefs, deep into making that connection. Like if you're so easily triggered, that means that there is a fundamental core belief that needs some healing. It might be, I am unworthy. It might be fear of being alone. Like no matter what happens, I'm going to be alone. Everybody's going to leave me. It might be that I am powerless. Like I really work on teaching people how to track their thoughts so they can understand what triggers them, and then tracking what we called associated beliefs that lead to that core belief. And we do that by what's called digging, and digging is vertical analysis. Um, so I'm teaching like how one thought is connected to another thought that's connected to another thought. I'm teaching that process. And once they have all their thoughts lined out for all their different triggers, then I teach these 5 analytical skills that are life changing, in my opinion. I use these skills every day of my life. I, and one of just a simple example, there's this beautiful analysis called utility analysis, where you can ask yourself when you have a thought, does this thought help me to feel better or worse? Okay, that's number one. The second thought is, does this thought help me or harm me in my relationships with others? And then the third thought in this particular analysis is, does this thought help me reach my goals? Now, if it's no to those 3 questions, you can pretty much decide that it's a useless thought. And why not like flick it off your shoulder and work on substituting with what I call a counter? A counter is a healthier, believable thought, right? So an example is if you make a mistake at work and you're walking around thinking, oh my God, I'm just so stupid, I cannot do anything right. It's probably connected to a deeper core belief as I'm worthless. And so when you make a mistake and you're thinking I'm stupid and you run through those questions and then you ask yourself, well, where's the evidence of the contradiction of stupid? Like, did you get a degree? Like, have you gotten a good job review at work? And so both things can't be true, right? You can't be completely stupid and succeed in these areas. So you got to decide. And sometimes we just need those analytical tools. So that's kind of what I do when people have a lot of triggers or they're just their thoughts are not as healthy as they could be, is I teach how to analyze, and it's very powerful work.
I love that. And I think that is one of the best strategy tips for anybody listening right now. Just a quick thing is we tend to think we are our thoughts, like our thoughts are us, and we never think to question them. And as soon as you question your thought, you are already taking a position of power again. Again, your thoughts now are less than you. You are the person in charge, you are the leader, and then you get to question it. So, in short, anyone who's listening, if you're having a moment where you feel triggered, like I tended to about a month ago, I felt triggered. I could have questioned myself. Is that really true? Is there really enough supportive evidence to realize that this person has always been this way, or have they shown up beautifully for me? If I would have thought it out, I would have been like, I'm being a little too sensitive here. This person, 8.5 times out of 10 is amazing. Why am I getting triggered over one little thing that didn't meet my expectation? So I'm just using myself as a reference only because I really did have a bad experience with my emotions. And it really shocked me to realize I allowed my emotions to control me. Like they were like in control of me. Like, where did I go to? I was basically at their mercy and I didn't have to be. And if I could have grabbed myself out of that, survival response and just asked myself a simple question, such as, is this really true? Are you just maybe having a little emotional day? Do you think you can put a pin in it and revisit it in an hour, see if you still feel anything that I could have asked myself to kind of like, um, you know, break up that train of terrible thoughts? I guess my point is you are in control. The simplest thing I think, Karen, right, is have them ask any type of question about what they're feeling just to kind of shock them out of it. And just that alone will make them realize they are in the control seat, not their emotions. And their emotions
Yeah.
are not them, right?
Yeah, I think this can be a little bit complicated what
It
you're
is.
saying, Val,
I'm
because
simplifying
sometimes,
it from the,
well, sometimes once we're in a panic attack, which is what it sounds like was happening,
yeah,
our thoughts do kind of go haywire. So what I would suggest during like a complete panic attack is doing what's called grounding techniques and a lot of grace for yourself and just reassuring yourself that you will be okay, that you're safe and maybe doing something like an ice cube and just gently rubbing it on your wrist is just so you know I'm going to be okay. You know, practice those deep breaths, and then you can practice those healthier thoughts, right? But
that's
sometimes
true.
in that moment we get so flooded, and
So
so
true.
a lot of times what I do, so if someone has a history of panic or they might be highly sensitive, we do a lot of prevention work because if you're working on prevention work, then you're not getting to that place. Because once you're there, it's kind of like when you're so angry that you kind of go blank, right? It's really hard to work with yourself at that state.
That's
So I recommend a lot of grace, a lot of self-compassion, the deep breathing, planting your feet on the ground, trying to get that breath to your diaphragm and your belly so your blood is getting enough oxygen to kind of regulate, right? And just, having a little mantra like, I am safe, I am
true.
okay, I am calm over and over until your body regulates again. And then you can have that conversation with yourself. And then you can write. I recommend writing, like, okay,
Yes.
what's the story I'm telling myself here? And just write it out. Because maybe that person is a douchebag that's hurt you. Maybe they do let you down over and over. And so writing it out, and like what is it that's within your control and what is not. It helps with our reactions, right? When we can ask ourselves, like, okay, what is my business? What is their business? And what is God business? That's another framework that we can use. What is it that I can control in this situation? Well, maybe not much. I can't control how other people treat me, but I can control my expectations and I can control taking care of myself. So,
I love that a lot. And it even makes me think about like women that want to advance their business by, you know, visibility, of course, going on stage and speaking. And then the stage fright can come in. Stage fright can feel very much
mhm.
like a panic attack, and just the hints that you have given here for anyone who's going to go on a stage who has a little bit of apprehension or even going visible on the social media lives or whatever it might be. Anything new like that can be a little bit jolting. And so I love this advice, kind of like do the physical, you know, snap out of it moment and then get into a little bit of the mental questioning work and kind of really break that down. So I think that this work is so fascinating because we're such complex human beings and we can have such a string of powerful moments and then have a moment where we're like, whoa, okay, like let's figure that one out and so forth. So your work really helps that holistic, well-rounded, obviously all people that are needing the help. You're such an expert in what you're doing. your whole heart and soul is into it, and it's such a beautiful thing to see because once you are able to help someone heal and you see them transform and improve and how that they're blessed now and they become more of a blessing to everybody else, that must be so rewarding to see that your way of being in the world and what you're doing in the world, all of these positive outcomes and differences you're having, helping people lead them in that right direction. I just think it's just the most beautiful work. It's just so commendable, like what you're doing. So I love it. So yeah. Okay. So I'm going to switch gears now and get into some success questions. And you can use it from a point from your own experience. And then also, if you want to share hints for the woman who's trying to grow out her dream life, including her business, maybe some of the things that she might focus on. So let me get my little glasses on. And okay, I guess I would ask you, what would be your number one professional tip for women who want to grow their business, who have never done anything like that before, that are stepping into a dream for themselves? And maybe all the people around them don't get it, don't understand it. What, how did you do it for yourself? How would you recommend another woman do it for herself?
Yeah, I think I have two answers that popped out really quick for me. So I'll just quickly do those. One is hire a business coach, but vet them first. So you have somebody that has a really good reputation. That would be one suggestion. The second thing I really recommend is writing out your vision. It can be a vision board. It doesn't have to be. It could just be writing out, like if you woke up in the morning and you had a successful career, how are you different? And what is different? So when you wake up in the morning, do you meditate? Do you journal? Do you go for a walk? Do you pray? And really writing out how your day is different once you're in that dream life. And then you start practicing that day, right? Because there's nothing stopping you from claiming that dream now. And the more you visualize that day and what you're doing in the world, so let's say you are a health coach and you want to have a larger impact. So maybe you're dreaming of, ooh, I could lead retreats on those new cruises that are focused on wellness. They have cruises now that have movement routines. Like it's a big focus. It's not just like the gym, you take a class. Like throughout the day, you're learning different movement. Got high it's highly nutritious cruise, so they take all the junk out. Like in every meal is a gourmet experience with health foods. So that's your dream, right? To take a group of clients on this cruise, and you're like, I've never done a retreat. I don't know how to do this logistically. You just kind of write out your vision, and you don't get tied up to how it's going to happen. You just write it out. You practice. We call it rehearsal. Every day you read this vision. This is what law of attraction, dream work. This is how, Jim Carrey got his start in life as an actor. Practicing it over and over and believing that you have what it takes. And then you just take a small action step every day towards that dream. So those are
Wow.
my two answers. I know I wasn't very
Love
succinct.
that. And little wins build up over
Yeah.
time. And I think that is such an important point that you make because a lot of times the overwhelm gets in front of you and it's all the things you should do, have to do, all of it. And your dream idea becomes this endless to-do list. And that is something, please put it away. Pick one thing maybe that you can do each day to chip off at it. But, it's like Rome wasn't built in a day. You don't have to make it all happen in a day. And you're allowed to make those little mistakes as you're growing. Actually, those will teach you how to get better. Ask for feedback also from your clients because even if they give you feedback that pinches a little, it is the best feedback in the world because you'll learn how to be better at building that business that serves, you know, yes, it has to serve you, but mostly has to serve others. So it's a real beautiful thing. So I love that stepping into the reality that you want. and you use the word claim. I had on my vision board, well, it was for my husband. He's my dream husband. And I fell deeply in love. I knew in a moment it was him. And I remember I wrote, claim it, like just be willing to share, go for your dreams. I've done this in a couple different areas. That word claim it is such a strong thing. So whatever it is if it's a the business, the body, the house, the partner, claim it, own it,
Claim.
and then move towards it every single day. So I think that is really beautiful, beautiful advice. And then I want to ask you, do you think that there are definitely qualities you really have to be an entrepreneur, or do you feel like pretty much anybody can do it if they want to, even if they never had any kind of experience before? And what
Oh,
qualities
it's such.
are they? Yeah.
Hmm. I think it's tricky, right? Because I think if somebody really wants something, and maybe that's the quality, right? You've got to really want it. And the other quality that sticks out is perseverance. A lot of businesses die very early in the process, right? So it takes some grit, perseverance. You've got to really want it. So if you're coming up with a business idea that doesn't light your fire, if there's no passion there, if you don't feel connected with purpose with it, that may not work out for you. Or it may work out and you're just not going to be blissing or thrilled about it, right? So I recommend if you want to be an entrepreneur, you've got to find a path that it's really purpose driven for you because that will help you on a bad day to like that persevere that push through that.
This is brilliant advice because even myself back in the day, I wound up accumulating many skill sets. I could help clients in many different ways, and I would be good at it. I was good at it. I could make a lot of money from all the different things. But there were certain things that I just wasn't jumping out of bed for. It wasn't in my heart's soul feeling. What I'm doing now is the most I've ever felt soulfully aligned. And it means I'm so excited. I can never stop thinking about my business, how I can help more, what I can add more, all of the things. I'm so motivated by it. And I'm only limited by the time to get it all done. So again, even
Right.
myself, I can feel overwhelmed because I want to do this for my client, this, and everything takes a little time to build out, right? And you just have to give yourself a great grace. So I would say, yes, please don't be motivated by money because if money can be, you can be a top lawyer, doctor, real estate agent. There's so many ways to make a lot of money, but if you're not passionate about it, oh, you're
God.
not going to feel very nice. You're not going to feel
Mm.
that joy. It's going to be short lived. It will not sustain you. And like, absolutely, like you're saying, there are days that are going to be hard, not so fun. Maybe, you're not feeling it, but if you have that dream in your heart that you're meant for this is how you're meant to serve, it is amazing how that can just bring you up. So, yeah, beautiful advice. Absolutely. Okay, here's another question related to the business side of things. So, you had your work in more let's say traditional situations in the past, and now you're in your whole creating your own beautiful business. When you first started that, how did you go about getting the word out about your business, marketing it? I'm sure you had a lot of referrals and so forth like that, but were there any specific marketing things or things that you would do that you might suggest to others to start to get their business known?
Yeah.
Organically, I would say. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, word of mouth was a big thing for sure. I think a lot of the quality, high quality clients that I have a good vibe with that we were aligned in matchwork. It's word of mouth where people would say, maybe it's somebody from my church, like, you've got to meet Karen. You know, she's really helped me. And this has happened a few times at my church. I go to a really beautiful non-denom church in Arlington, Virginia. And, some people would say, okay, you really have got to meet her. She's going to be help. And I had to say to people, stop saying that because I have no more space, right? And so that's what happened to me actually is I filled up. with one-on-one clients very quickly. And when I have clients, they don't tend to want to leave. And so that's why I had to start thinking outside of the box, like how can I serve more? And that's where I came up with summits. I host four holistic healing summits a year so I can reach more people and share my wisdom that way. Hosting retreats. And then I do a free group at my church that it's been growing and thriving, and I have a beautiful partner with that project as well. And then, so we got retreats now, we've got summits, we've got a membership now, we've got Dream Club. And so that's how I have grown is these different offers. I have a podcast that helps get the word out about your business. I write blog posts or sharing my experiences through writing. And when I first started out too, I did anthologies, and I believe you are very familiar with that, Tamara. I think I'm in seven. Actually, after this year, it's going to be nine. No, actually, 10 anthologies where I've submitted chapters where I tell a different story about myself and about my work. And this year in May, I am actually launching my own memoir slash teaching tool. So it's half story, half of my work about my pillars, my holistic healing pillars. So that's how I've kind of marketed myself. Podcast, blog writing, the anthologies, now my book, doing and being a guest on podcast, word of mouth, summits, retreats. Yeah,
I have a
and you
question.
never know what's going to land with people. So you've just got to keep trying and putting yourself
That's
out
so
there, taking risk. Yeah.
Yes, I love that. Absolutely. Get out of your comfort zone, take the risks, learn no matter what happens. It's always a learning experience, and you can always, utilize that somewhere along the line in your business. And I think I don't actually have this question on my list, but I think it's a good one. So like with all of these different things that you had done and are doing, how do you schedule yourself so that you're productive, you get things done, you don't feel the overwhelm, you leave enough space so you feel like, the freedom of your other parts of your life? Do you have any tips for, I think it's especially, this actually should probably be a standard question because many of us entrepreneurs, we're so excited, we work on our own and we don't have a boss telling us we have to do this, that, and the other thing at this time and all the things. And there's beautiful freedom in that, but at the same time that can be sometimes a little too much freedom where people don't aren't as productive enough, or they give themselves a hard time, or they can do the weekend warrior where they do so much and then they're exhausted. So do you have any tips for like time and productivity as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, well, I want to just be transparent, completely honest. I often get overwhelmed because I love to do it all. I love to
Yeah,
travel. I love time with my family, and now I am working on my health journey. So I go to Club Pilates 5 days a week, and
beautiful.
and I want to practice those holistic healing pillars. So I'm constantly working on that. So figuring out my life balance, and I don't even believe in the word balance,
Imbalance.
honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I
Mhm.
live in imbalance a lot of times. So sometimes my family is getting a lot of my energy. Sometimes it's clients that are getting a lot of my energy. So we just have to remember that our energy can be infinite in one way, but we still have to fill that bucket up. And so I think, long story short with this, I really recommend if you're someone that is either looking to rev yourself up to have more energy to complete your passion projects, or if you're someone that's too revved up, either way, there's work to be done. And it all starts with self. So, meaning you've got to do what's called, I call these bookends. You got to work on your bookends. Your bookends are your morning routine and your bedtime routine. These are
Okay.
the times that you really have got to nail down. You got to nail down your sleep schedule. You got to nail down your nutrition. So that's the bookends is where you're planning your breakfast and your dinner. You're nailing down your meditation, your movement. You got to move, right? If not, you're going to crash and burn. Because how do I know? Because I've done that, right? So meditation, journaling, getting support. Support is huge. The other thing about support that's really helpful, not only as getting accountability and getting nurture, getting seen, heard, feeling safe, but that support is also where you can get your dreams to really quantum leap because you never know who you know that's going to help you with part of your dream, you know? For example, my dream of hosting these healing summits, if I didn't have a community to share that, I wouldn't have sponsors. So other women leaders, business leaders have sponsored my summit so I could afford things like ad spend, so I can offer scholarships for survivors that may not have the means. That would not happen if I had not put myself out there in community. So that's something I really recommend too, is network, not in a way to do business per se, but in a way to have deeper connections and relationships, because those are the people that are going to help you with your dreams.
Plus the social side of it, because often as an entrepreneur we're all by ourselves with our computers, and just even in the online world of Zoom meetings, this is very important to make the connections also with other peers that are in a similar line of work than you, because quite often, family and friends in traditional roles, they can't relate. We want to share and do all the things, and we don't always get that positive feedback, or they just can't relate enough to have a conversation. And so it's so important. I love what you said about the bookends. That is so vital. And I think sometimes we're like, oh, we start an idea and then we let it go. These are pivotal things, that morning routine and the evening routine, because it sets you up to already feel successful because you are taking the lead in your own life. And it's those little wins, and checking the boxes off if that works for you. It just all these little enforcements to let you know that you're moving forward. And that's always something I say, just keep moving forward. It doesn't have to be all at once. And the overwhelm, be aware of that, and then just chunk it down. And having those morning and evening routines to ground you, it just will give you that natural energy and clarity and focus, and sets you up for success. So I absolutely love that. It's one of my most common questions I ask. What do you have a morning routine? Do you have an evening routine? What does that look like? And we really need to realize how important and vital that is, and to bring us forward. So great answer. Want to ask you, how do you define success? What does that look like in a, let's say, typical day in your life?
That's a beautiful question. I think success is just, am I better today than I was yesterday? What did I move the needle on? And if I didn't move the needle, can't that be okay? Like, does every day have to be groundbreaking success? Or can it just be okay that I took a couple breaths? And the reason that's important too is sometimes we just get sick. Like right now, I have a client who has double pneumonia in the hospital. She's a hard charger. She's an entrepreneur. She does a lot of great work in the community, and right now she's in the hospital. So am I going to say to her, "Oh, today you're not successful?"
Exactly.
She took
Exactly.
a breath today.
Yeah.
We have sometimes we have to focus on sometimes success is just, oh, I really need to be in the hospital. I need to get care. I need to heal. I think success is different for all of us. I think we are just simply so hard on ourselves,
Yeah.
you know. Oh, another way you could look at success too is just ask yourself, did I do a good deed today?
I
Did
love
I
that.
offer a helping hand to someone? Maybe that's a measure of success as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely. And I love what prayers for your friend that she comes through. And like you're saying, how we gauge our success in life is, it's so different depending on the things. And quite often, for an example, like there are moments when you might just need to do nothing with your business for a couple days, and not be hard on yourself, because that is sometimes fertile soil. There are new seeds about to sprout up, and if you don't give that breathing space for something, it can't evolve. sometimes in the beginning, if there was a couple days in a row or even a week or whatever, I just couldn't get in the swing of it. And my instinct would maybe to be hard on myself, like you need to get things done, da da da. It turns out that it was sometimes my biggest breakthrough moments where that you just need that breathing pause to think, to reevaluate, to reassess, to be re-inspired. And that whole inspiration thing, it's like trust your instincts, trust your own self. And no, I think the success part, like for me, is if when you are moving forward in some way and being of service. You don't need it on a spreadsheet, so to speak. You just
Yeah,
simple questions. Am I making a difference? Or am I trying to make a difference at least? And that's enough of a benchmark, right? To know that you're on a path, and your path is of service and is not meant to be harmful to anybody else, and you're just trying to do good work in the world, be better for yourself, be better for others. That's success right there, and that is going to show up so differently through different age group, your age parts, you're when you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, all of those changes, all of the different things, you have to allow that space to grow forward, right? And that allowance to just unfold, like let your flower just unfold without being pulled before it's too soon, because there's so much going on in the way you're meant to develop and be of service, and there's so much gifts that you can give. But a lot of times it's not always about this, you have to do this at this time because you said you were going to do this at this time. No, sometimes it's okay to just breathe and receive those messages. So maybe my last question on that then is, how would you recommend a woman getting in a space of receiving guidance, internal guidance, soulful guidance for herself if she's, caught up in the overwhelm and the to-do list and the this, that, and the other thing, and there's more of a frantic energy she might be feeling, maybe with good intention because she wants to accomplish good things, but she's not grounded. So, do you have any suggestions on how a woman can either one find her soul's purpose or get reattuned to it?
yeah. It's this is probably the toughest question that you're asking, right? Because women historically are givers and really struggle with receiving. And so, what came to my mind when you started phrasing this question is just that pause, that hitting that pause button, because sometimes we're just go, 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 and we miss the forest through the trees, right? And so, when we hit pause, we can maybe ask ourselves, what is it that I need right now? And then practice what I call the ask. The ask is a framework I just came up last weekend. I went to two speaking schools in a row. I went to a stages program, then I went to a speaker mastermind program. And during my speech writing, I came up with this acronym called ASK, and it kind of answers your question. So the A is be having more awareness on what you really need. The S stands for support. What kind of support would be helpful, and what are my resources within that support network? And the K is knowing that the universe has your back.
Yeah.
So with the ask framework, it teaches us we've got to sometimes ask if we're constantly filling everybody's up, else's cup up. Guess what? When we go to sit down to drink, our cup is going to be completely empty, and we can't survive without nourishment. This is true for the body, it's true for the soul. So we got to hit pause and work the ask framework. Awareness, support, know the universe has your back. And you can't practice this framework if you're just go, 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 or if you're stuck in the mud or stuck in your bed depressed. You have to just pause and do the ask.
Ah, that's really great advice. I love that. That awareness is everything. And also, like, how we might care for our child or a parent if they're not feeling well, with such nurture and support and softness, we need to also give that to ourselves, because there are times we need to treat ourselves that way. And I love what you were saying also, like if your water cup, so to speak, is empty, that's a problem. And this comes into those boundaries too, right? Establishing boundaries enough that, yes, you give to others, but you also make sure you give to yourself. The whole oxygen on the plane thing, right? If you don't take
Right.
care of your oxygen first, you can't help anybody else. So you need to fill your own tanks, and then you'll be the better version of yourself. And I know we hear that it's a little, we hear it all the time, but are we doing it? And that's the difference, so we might have heard these, oh, the oxygen mask thing, yeah, I heard that 50,000 times already. True, so have I. But are you doing it? That's the difference,
Mm.
right? Knowing and doing are two separate things. So,
Boy,
and that's okay. Forgive yourself if you haven't yet, but maybe take this opportunity from listening and being inspired on this beautiful interview to go ahead and create some bookends for yourself. Fill your own tanks, create some boundaries, start with small steps. Please reach out to Karen. Check out her website, which can you share your website so people can find out more about you?
sure. I have two.
Mm.
HealThriveDream.com is one. And then for my corporation, it's HTD, which stands for Heal Thrive Dream, holisticservices.org. And that website has more about my pillars work, more about the summits, the retreats, and so forth.
Wow, you are just like everything. You have really all of the expertise, the skill sets, the holistic, the clinical side, the big helping things to the let's get some, fundamental routines in line. Everything and anything under the sun. I just want to share with all of you women who are listening to this, all of us, you, like Karen said, we cannot get through this life without some bumps and bruises. Some are gigantic, but all of us have something that we need to be aware of and love ourselves through it and heal, thrive, dream, and find that help out there, make little progress and get in front of it. And everything that Karen is doing can be such a help for you in your life entirety, not just your business, but your relationships, your relationship with yourself, obviously your health, all of it. It's a holistic way to live. It's foundational. And it's so important to get those pieces in line as best as you can, more understanding, more awareness, more movements forward without the overwhelm, just little successes going forward so that you are developing that life that you really want, or you're going to learn and figure out the life you really want. And you need to do that with introspection. You need to sit down and, you know, have yourself a great conversation with yourself, with Karen, with others that can help you so that you can, get ahead and make the best of your life. So I just think that your work is the most foundational piece because it's human. It's the human experience. It's accounting for all the things that can happen, all the good and also the other side of it. And the fact is, we're still needing to desire to go through the world in as beautiful a way to serve ourselves, to serve others. And we can only do that when we learn and learn how to work with ourselves in the best possible way. And you are just the most beautiful woman who has the skill set that can help guide someone to that. So I am so thankful for the work that you do and how you help others. And I want all of you beautiful women listening to please go check out Karen's work. She is amazing. She has so many different things to get started, even like your dream club, right? The $7 a month dream club. Start there. Just get some hints, get a little feeling for everything. So I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your help, your strategies that anyone listening to this right now can start and also realize they're not alone, that We all have things, and we all have the opportunity to be better every day, and that's exciting, and that's motivational, and that is what you know is waiting in front of you, because the better you are for yourself, the better you can be for everybody else. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, well, wealthy
Thank you for
women.
hosting me.
Oh,
I just want to say thank
yes,
you for hosting me. Yes.
my pleasure. It absolutely, and the pleasure for everybody who listens. So to all of you beautiful women out there, I always say this: keep moving forward in the direction of your dreams. You'll get there. Don't overwhelm it. Enjoy the journey. And yeah, just keep listening and be inspired. So until next time, bye for now.